Okay, we are now recording and live on YouTube. I'd like to call this meeting of Shelton's Charter Revision Commission to order. We are operating under, oh, somebody's got a dog. Could somebody mute if you got dogs? We are operating under Governor Lamont's emergency provision 7B, allowing for virtual meetings as long as we're broadcasting live and have a recording of the meeting. So with that, if we could rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, gang. Before we get down to business, just wanted a process note that we next Monday's Memorial Day. So wanted to see if Tuesday at 7 worked for everyone to do the next meeting.
Good for me.
Good for me.
I think it's good for me too.
Oh, hey, Ruth Ann.
Hi, sorry I was late. The Wi-Fi was turned off.
No worries. No worries whatsoever. All right, so we'll do that, Sophia. We'll do 7 o'clock on Tuesday for our next meeting, or workshop, I should say. So tonight, gang, I think we're gonna have a relatively short meeting. I sent you over a couple things, one of which was I had some time and actually finished a version 1 of our charter based on the 20 approved changes that we have approved so far. And so we're not going to talk about that tonight because I was under no expectation that you guys would read that in the last 24 hours. But if you would all read that over the course of the week, and on next Tuesday, we're going to start going through the language of the charter. So we're going to be moving on from idea debate to the devil's in the details language in the charter. Any questions on that? Or I know that people probably haven't had a chance to read it yet, and I don't blame you. All right, seeing none, then for tonight, oh, go ahead, Gary.
Again, point of order, I have to leave the meeting around, between 20, 25 after. I have a 7:30 convention that I have to attend.
Okay.
And, I think that's going to last probably no more than, 20, 25 minutes. And then I'll check back on, see if you guys are still meeting.
Perfect. And I'll let you know if we're done. We might be given. We only have 7 remaining ideas to go through, so
okay.
Maybe done. Okay. So with that, here's what we have left, guys, in terms of ideas to go through. First is where we left off last time was we were debating the P&Z alternates, and there was kind of 2 variables we were debating. One is should it be 2 years or 4 years? And then should we have 1 alternate or 2? The idea being that with 1, it would be a competitive election for either a Republican or a Democrat or an independent for that matter, but it would be a competitive election. The idea with 2 being you would have 1 from each of the parties, and they would be able to substitute in for members of the same party. So we kind of left this for everyone to go off and think about it, and wanted to see if upon reflection, folks had a preference one way or the other, or something different.
Lisa Ritter, and I think I like 2 and 2. 2 alternates, 1 from each party for 2 years. So they have an opportunity to run for the full board should it come available to them.
Good, thank you for getting us started there, Alyssa. Other thoughts?
Ruth Ann here. My thought is I like the 2 years, and I also like 2 alternates. But I think I would prefer to say not more than 1 from 1 party. Because what if an independent wanted to run or whatever?
Yep, that's the language. It would be a preservation of the language we have right now.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Right? The only addition we would probably make in that case is the part that Ruth Parkins made, which was that just have you can only substitute in for someone who is of the same party.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have Republicans substituting in for Democrats or vice versa.
Okay.
Dave, I would go with two, one from each party as well. And I just a little unclear as to what the advantages or disadvantages are from 2 and 4.
I'll just say because I think, Dave, the advantage of 2 is what Darlissa said, which is that it enables them to run for the full board should a seat open up. The advantage of 4 is it puts it in line with the other members of planning and zoning who all have 4-year terms.
Yeah.
So again, I think there's as everything else, there's just a trade-off between which one we like.
Yeah, but I guess how would it work? If you went 4, it probably makes more sense to go 2, because, you know, if you start that election and then in 2 years, there's an opening and you want to run, and then you either win or lose. If you lose, you're still an alternate.
Yeah.
If you win, now there's a vacancy, and who fills that vacancy?
Right. So is there anybody want to argue for 4 years? Okay, seeing none, we'll reject that one. And then in terms of the 1 versus 2, I heard a couple people speak out in favor of 2. I'll make the argument for 1, although I'm fine with 2. I think the argument for 1 is one of our themes of this of our charter revision has been to take power away from the parties and give it to the people. This one basically says, hey, the Republican Town Committee and Democratic Town Committee will basically name the alternates, right? Because it's not going to be competitive. And whereas, Ruth Ann, you're right, in theory, an independent could beat them. In reality, in all probability, the party's nomination is equal to election. So that's the only argument I see for 1. I get the argument for 2, both from there being a bipartisan representation, and you know we heard from Ginny Harger saying, you know, hey, we have meetings where there are 2 people who are conflicted out, so we really do need 2. So I'm comfortable keeping 2 as well.
I'm okay. I'm okay with the 2.
Yeah.
You know.
Anybody want to make an argument for 1? All right, so this is going to be maintained at 2, which is what we have today, but with additional language that substitution or that alternates can only substitute members from the same party. Okay. All right. Then the one idea, and my apologies, this is the one idea I didn't get to do research on, was the idea of voting for less than the number of candidates, but less than the number of slots there are. The only charter I looked at was our own, and there's no reference to state statute there. It seems like we are going to be able to change that if we want to, but I want to make sure of that with a couple of examples from other towns before we debate it. So I want to make sure we're not doing something that's explicitly prohibited by state statute. So we'll come back to that one as one of our last ones to debate. The ones I did do research on were the fire commissioner ones. So the fire commissioner ones did a little bit of research with state statute, talked to a couple of members of the department, and by and large, everybody was okay with the first one. Right? Everyone was like, yep, even though 10 to 15% of our volunteers are from outside the city, nobody's going to blanch at the requirement that the commissioners be electors, right? Because they are the leadership board. It is in line with everything else in the charter. Nobody seemed to think anybody would have a problem with it. Maybe they do, but I haven't talked to anybody who does. So I think we had a favorable disposition to this one. We did have a letter opposing it from one of the commissioners.
I'm good with that.
I'm fine with it.
Me too. Thumbs up.
Okay, anybody want to argue against? All right, if not, we'll accept that one. All right, now the next two. Now the next two are interesting. So this one I didn't fully understand, but got a little bit of history around it. And so Ruth Ann, you may remember this from 8 or 9 years ago. the wording, so you remember that in 2012, I think it was, the last charter revision, there was this big grand compromise around the fire department. And one of them was adding the wording that the commissioner shall be equal in rank and authority. And this was because apparently what was happening in the past is the chairman would claim great, like as you can imagine, they are a hierarchical organization. The chairman would claim a certain rank and authority above the other commissioners, and it would cause a discord amongst the fire commissioners. So this is one that, you know, in talking to some of the commissioners and some of the folks in the department, they said, look, it's working well right now. Don't fix what ain't broken. There's no reason to take this away. So they said, yeah, you should by and large keep that, which makes sense to me. I'm fine with keeping it. I don't think there's a compelling rationale to get rid of it.
I go along with that.
Ruth Ann here again. I know when we did it 8 or 9 years ago that, I mean, the fire commissioners, the fire department, that was the biggest discussion. I don't remember anything specifically about it, but I do remember some things about, you know, who was in charge, who wasn't in charge, this and that. But I am in favor of leaving well enough alone.
Yes. Good. Thank you for that perspective, Ruthann. We'll put that in the reject column. And then the last one was one where I looked at two places here. One was state statute and one is our own charter. So let's just start with our own charter. And this was one where it was useful to see the language. Can you guys see my screen with the charter?
Mhm.
Okay, let me go down to the fire department part. Fire marshal. So with the fire marshal, basically, the fire marshal says that already if you read under 6943, the marshal shall report to the mayor consistent with the provisions of this charter and Connecticut general statutes. So basically, and it says that the marshal shall make a monthly report to the Board of Fire Commissioners and the mayor on the status of the Office of Fire Marshal. In talking with some of the folks, basically the way this works today is for all practical purposes, the fire marshal reports to the mayor. And that is how it should be. The mayor is doing the day-to-day management of it. But what this does is it requires the marshal to make reports into the fire commission, which would be done away with in the proposal. The issue of appointments, and again, I'll flip back. The issue of appointments is actually done by state statute. And so I didn't realize this. I got some background on this. Like basically it says that the Board of Fire Commissioners is the one who is actually the ones to appoint the fire commissioner. And there's actually a long list of other people. If there is no Board of Fire Commissioners, the legislative body, the Board of Selectmen, et cetera, until it reaches the mayor or first selectman. Basically, the history behind this was they wanted to prevent conflicts of interest of fire marshals being directly appointed by municipal CEOs and then having to turn around and tell about the code for buildings that the municipal CEO may own. So basically saying that if there is a Board of Fire Commissioners, excuse me, they have to be the one to appoint. So given the statute and the fact that I think our charter and reality is that the mayor is running the fire, running the mayor has the fire marshal already reporting to him on a day-to-day basis. I don't think that this language makes sense.
Right.
Are we sure we've got the right interpretation on that legislation? That fire marshal has to be appointed by a fire board?
If it exists, right? So this is where it says, it's very poorly written legislation. I probably wrote it. No, there's very poorly written legislation. It says, so it's awkward language, but it says the Board of Fire Commissioners, or in the absence of such board, any corresponding authority of the city, town, or borough, or if no such board or corresponding exists, the legislative body of the city, in our case, the alderman, the board of selectmen of each town, or the warden or burgess of each borough, or in the case of an incorporated fire, the executive authority of such district shall appoint a local fire marshal and such deputy fire marshals, etc. So it says because we have a board of fire commissioners, they have to be the ones to appoint.
Now, do you think that would distinguish between a professional department and a volunteer department?
I do not. I do not. I think this is at least from the folks that I talked with, this is this is hard and fast. If you look across all towns, any town that has a board of fire commissioners will have that group appoint the fire marshal.
You see, my experience is that the fire marshal in a professional fire department will typically be a division in the fire department.
Yes.
Okay.
And if we did, and to be clear, if we didn't have the board of fire commissioners, then it'd be the board of aldermen who would appoint. So I don't disagree with your interpretation, Don. That's why I didn't know the statute existed. But I mean, we can, if folks want to research this further, because there's always the possibility that I'm wrong, you're more than glad to punt this one as well. Or if folks, feel strong desire for this. Because my big thing, Don, was making sure that the mayor had actual day-to-day management of the fire marshal, which is where, to your point, where it belongs. And it appears both in charter and reality that it is. So I'm comfortable either way. If you guys want to punt to talk to folks, or if you want to take action tonight, whatever folks want.
I like the comment, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Leave it. We need to clean it up a little bit, but
Yeah, the statute, we're not going to clean up.
no, we can't clean up the statute, but I wish we could,
It's a
but
little wordy, yeah.
yes.
Don, what do you think? I know you feel passionately about the fire
Oh,
marshal.
no, I don't. No, not really. I just think that, again, it seems unreasonable to me. And when something seems so unreasonable that a voluntary board can appoint a department head, then I don't know, it probably doesn't hold up, but I don't care.
Yeah. My guess is if we spent enough time to go through state statutes, we'd find many, many things that are unreasonable.
That's why the local charter prevails.
Yeah, there you go, Gary.
Yeah.
There's going to be a Di Filippo versus somebody at the state Supreme Court. All right, so folks are okay with it. We'll put this in the reject column. And then the last one for tonight was one we had closed down, but one that I put down, confirmed with Jack Basher. Oh, and by the way, we had some other confirmations as
Dan, I lost you.
with the Board of can you see now?
We lost you, Dan.
How about now? Am I
Yeah,
back?
Gotcha.
Right, but start all over.
Sorry. So we had said last time there were a couple things we agreed to, but we wanted to check with some folks. So with the quorum issue with the Board of Aldermen of only requiring an absolute 5 votes for budgetary issues and ordinances, checked with John Anglace. He said he was absolutely fine with it, made a lot of sense. Checked with Jack Basher, to make sure we can get Corporation Counsel to look over our document once it's done. Answer is yes. So as soon as we're done with our language, we can send it over to him to review. But he also said, Dan, I know you guys had said, get rid of the administrative assistant part of the charter. He said there's actually an important reason to leave it in. And he said, our charter actually gives a power, and I'll go to it, that most other chiefs of staff don't, which is if you look under 612, this is actually a pretty powerful position. The mayor may from time to time delegate to the administrative assistant such administrative powers or duties that are vested in the mayor. Right, so essentially the mayor can delegate any of his powers to the administrative assistant. Right, and basically Jack said, look, this is an important thing to maintain because there are often times that the mayor is unable to be someplace but needs to be represented. And so him being able to attend the meeting with the power delegated from the mayor was an important thing. So he basically, Jack's comment was, look, change the title to chief of staff. He's like, it's much better. But he's like, please don't delete this because even though it is not frequently used, it is important when it is used that those powers can be delegated. So what's folks' reaction to that?
And then in the powers, you talk about, we have a personnel officer, and then you got the grantsman.
Yep.
Which is Charlene. I talked to Sandy on it. She thought those two things probably shouldn't be in the duties. I talked to Sandy Nesteriak.
Yep.
You may want to change shall to may.
Yep. Always a good thing.
And then, if you don't want to go chief of staff, is the chief administrative officer?
I do think it's because I get what Don said before is chief administrative officer smacks of the town manager model. Chief of staff, I like chief of staff because it does imply that, look, and it's also the Danbury model, that's what they call it up there, is that, look, it's a pretty powerful position, but it's not, the mayor's the chief administrative officer of the city. He can delegate to the chief of staff if he sees fit.
Mm-hmm.
What do folks think?
Darlisa, I like the chief of staff as well.
Well, it's Ruth Ann here, when you say chief of staff, I mean, to me, when I think of chief of staff, it's like they're in charge of everybody else. So is that basically what, like like almost like a office manager, chief of staff, and you're in charge of the staff. So I tend to be, leaning against that verbiage.
Hey, Dan, I have to excuse myself. I have to go to that meeting.
Go for it, Gary. Thanks.
Talk to you guys.
See ya.
And this is where I'm flexible. I think, Ruth Ann, my experience of chiefs of staff is they tend to be right-hand men or women who help the chief executive actually manage the department. Like it's funny, corporate parallel, but I'm essentially a chief of staff to a CEO right now. And so like that, even though that's not my title, it's the role I play, and nobody actually reports to me, but I'm given power by the CEO to get certain things done. That's kind of how I view this position as well, rather than like a chief administrative officer. To me, more so implies everybody rolls up to them. But again, I don't feel passionate about this other than to say administrative assistant's not the right title.
Okay, I'm kind of wishy-washy. I'm not sure how I feel. Which one is better than the other?
Don, what you've seen this in other towns, Don. What do you think is a good title for this?
I like chief of staff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go with whatever the majority goes. I'm fine with that.
In the context you just represented it, Dan, I think it makes sense.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
Agreed.
I guess one of the things, and I don't want to, again, this is not a big deal, but I don't know why this couldn't be handled by ordinance, or I don't know why the position is broken out in the charter.
It's literally I think it's only that reason, Don, is that delegation of power it's a pretty powerful phrase, right? To be able to, like, I can get, like, literally, he can give, like, the way this reads, the mayor can give the administrative assistant any power he wants. Do you want the power to veto? I'm going to be out of town. Feel free to veto this legislation, right?
I mean, that's the kind of authority that would appear in a job description. I mean, you can make it as grand as you want, but I mean, that's, an executive says, and the legislative body agrees that they create the job description and it has his full authority if he's not there.
Yeah.
But that said, I like chief of staff, so.
Okay. Then
I was,
go ahead.
I was going to say, in the 2012 charter, I had down that these powers and duties, they're really explained in the old one. So if we use some of that language and define what we mean by chief of staff, it should just carry over.
Yeah,
There's
this
not- It really does explain it pretty well in the old one. And we could be more precise if we want to.
absolutely.
You
This is
know.
where, as always, we're going to get into the details.
Right.
Right.
All right, gang. Well, that is it for our ideas. We have this one last idea hanging out there on voting. And unless anybody, and obviously, if any of you have any new ideas as you're reading the language, we can definitely entertain them. But I think we're going to be shifting now into the charter itself. So I think the homework for you guys is read what I wrote. And as you would imagine, absolutely no ego or anything about it. Like I probably screwed up a dozen things in here. Just read through it. Come next time with like ideas and comments. And we're actually going to start marching through chapter by chapter. And so if there are places where you're like, Dan, you missed a change that I thought we made, or I don't like this language, or most importantly, like most of my errors, and by the way, our errors is going to be unintended consequences. Like, oh, did we think of this language looks right for the idea we wanted, but we're causing two other problems. That's the thing I want to make sure we avoid, because that's the tricky one. So with that, as I said, short meeting tonight, but anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
I do have a,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Ruth Ann.
okay, is there a way we could, or all of us, if they want it, get a printed version of what you wrote? I think sometimes it's easier to read that than on a computer, but I don't know how many, can one be typed up, printed off, and I'll go pick it up at town hall, or I don't know.
Yeah, Sophia, are you able to print at town hall and someone can pick this up?
Do you want the charter that you just sent me this today?
Right,
Yeah.
the one he sent last night, whatever he wrote, so that.
Okay, I can print it out.
compare-
I'm in the office tomorrow with you and I can print it out. You can come pick it up.
Okay.
I already printed mine off of my
Oh,
computer.
well, I don't
So-
know, my printer's not working, that's the only reason.
So I just want Sophie to know, don't do one for me. I've got it. So save your time and money, paper, our money.
Anybody else need a copy?
Good.
No?
It's not just me.
Okay.
All right, gang, then any other, Alyssa?
One more quick thing on voting for the Board of Ed. Voters may choose up to 6 candidates for the Board of Ed from one party. Did
No.
we're going to include that or not include that?
We're going to talk about, that's the one remaining idea. Is,
Okay.
I want to get examples from other towns.
Okay,
Know how they do it before we debate it. But that one is going to be left, and it's not just Board of Ed. That would apply to all the elected boards, P and Z and library
Okay.
as well. But I want to give you guys some examples of what's out there before we debate it.
okay.
Okay.
Dan, quick question. In the past, I don't know how you want to handle it with the, being chairman. Do you want this revision of the charter part of the minutes or not yet?
I would say not yet. Let's
Okay.
keep our ideas in there in the minutes.
The
right?
ideas are fine, but not this yet. Okay, no problem.
Once we start to review it and go through it, then we can start including it. But right now, this just reflects.
Okay,
And I want it to reflect the board or the commission before it's in the minutes.
okay, sounds good.
Quick question, Sophia, what time are you open there?
We open at 10, but I
Oh,
can
okay.
let you in at 9:30. I usually
Oh.
get there about 8, but he doesn't open the door till 9:30.
Okay, it probably won't be that early, but I didn't think you were there at 8 or 9, so I.
And
just
we're there
wanted-
only till 2,
Oh, okay.
but
I
I'm
think you
there
said
till
that.
about 5, so
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
matter.
Okay, sounds good.
All right,
Thank
gang,
you.
anything else? If not, thank you all, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
No moved.
But you-
Motion by Darlissa,
Second,
second by Ruth Ann. All those in favor?
I,
aye.
All right, guys, have a great week and a great Memorial Day. Be safe, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
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 Okay.
Bye.
You're
Stay safe, guys.
take care.
Thank you, everybody.